The night Alexander Vale agreed to the blind date, he didn't expect anything from it. Not hope. Not love. Certainly not the past. He was standing alone on the balcony of his private seaside villa, the ocean stretching endlessly before him, dark and restless, much like the life he had tried to escape by coming here. To the world, Alexander was a billionaire, cold, powerful, untouchable. But in that moment, with the wind pressing against his chest and silence roaring in his ears, he was just a lonely man who hadn't heard his own laughter in years. When his assistant casually mentioned a blind date arranged by the resort concierge, Alexander almost said no. Almost. Instead, he sighed and said yes, unaware that in less than 24 hours, his entire life would come to a standstill. Alexander had built his empire with discipline and distance. He learned early that emotions slowed you down, and attachments made you weak. After a painful childhood marked by abandonment and betrayal, he promised himself he would never need anyone. Money, control, and success became his armor. Over the years, relationships came and went, models, socialites, women drawn more to his wealth than his soul. Eventually, he stopped trying. That's why this vacation existed at all. No meetings, no boardrooms, no reminders of the man he had become. Just the sound of waves and the hope that silence might heal something inside him. The next evening, Alexander arrived early at the small candlelit restaurant tucked away on the beach. The air smelled of salt and jasmine. He adjusted his cufflinks, feeling strangely nervous, annoyed with himself for even caring. It was just dinner, he reminded himself. An hour of polite conversation, then back to solitude. He stared out at the horizon when he heard footsteps behind him. Soft, hesitant. He turned around casually, then froze. His breath caught. His heart slammed violently against his ribs. Time seemed to collapse inward. Standing there, clutching the strap of her modest handbag, was the last person he ever expected to see again. Her name was Elena. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The years between them vanished, replaced by memories Alexander had buried so deep he convinced himself they were gone. Elena's eyes widened in recognition, shock rippling across her face. She looked older, more tired, but there was a quiet strength in her posture that hadn't existed before. The wind lifted a strand of her hair, and suddenly Alexander was 20 years younger, standing in a cramped apartment, promising a woman he loved that he would come back for her. Elena, he finally whispered. She swallowed hard. Alexander. The silence between them was heavy, trembling with everything unsaid. The concierge cleared his throat awkwardly and slipped away, leaving them alone under the stars. They sat down slowly, like strangers afraid that one wrong movement might shatter the moment. Alexander's mind raced. Elena was the woman he had once loved with a sincerity that terrified him. The woman he left behind when ambition demanded sacrifice. The woman who disappeared from his life without explanation after he chose success over her. I didn't know it was you, Elena said quietly, her hands folded tightly in her lap. Neither did I, Alexander replied, his voice strained. If I had. He stopped. If he had known, would he have come? The truth scared him. Dinner arrived, untouched for long minutes. Eventually, conversation began, awkward, cautious, fragmented. Elena spoke of her life in small pieces. She had moved cities, worked multiple jobs, learned how to survive without expecting rescue. Alexander listened, guilt settling deep in his chest as he realized how different her life had been from his own. Finally, he asked the question that had haunted him for decades. Why did you leave without telling me? Elena's eyes shimmered. She looked away toward the ocean. Because you already left, she said softly. You chose a world where I didn't belong. I was pregnant, Alexander. And you told me to wait. So I did. And waited. And waited. The world cracked open. Alexander's fork slipped from his hand, clattering against the plate. Pregnant, he whispered. Elena, I never knew. I know, she said. Your assistant stopped returning my calls. Your number changed. And then the news articles started. Billionaire prodigy. Fastest rising empire. I realized there was no space left for me, or our child. His vision blurred. A child. A life he never knew existed. A future erased by silence. She's 19 now, Elena continued. Her name is Sophia. Alexander felt something inside him collapse completely. Tears he hadn't shed since childhood burned behind his eyes. All the money, all the power, suddenly felt meaningless. He had built an empire while unknowingly abandoning his own blood. I would have been there, he said desperately. I swear to you. If I had known. I believe you, Elena said. But belief doesn't change the past. They walked along the beach afterward, the conversation heavier but honest. Elena explained that Sophia was the one who encouraged her to accept the blind date. She knew her mother had grown tired of loneliness. She didn't know who the man was, only that he was kind and respectful, according to the concierge. Alexander stopped walking. Does she know about me? Elena shook her head. No. I never wanted her to feel unwanted. That night, Alexander didn't sleep. He sat by the window until dawn, replaying every decision that led him here. For the first time in decades, success felt hollow. What use was legacy if it excluded love? The next morning, Alexander asked Elena for one thing, not forgiveness, not reconciliation, but a chance. A chance to meet Sophia. A chance to be present, even if it was late. Days passed slowly. Tension built. When he finally met Sophia at a small cafe, his hands trembled. She was brilliant, sharp, kind. She had Elena's eyes and his stubbornness. They talked cautiously, unaware of the truth, but something unspoken connected them. Over the following weeks, Alexander chose differently than he ever had before. He stayed longer, canceled meetings, listened instead of leading. Eventually, Elena told Sophia the truth. Sophia cried. Then she asked questions. Then she hugged him. I don't need a billionaire, she said. I just need a father who shows up. And Alexander did. He restructured his life, stepped back from ruthless expansion, built foundations instead of fortresses. He learned that wealth multiplied when shared, and love deepened when earned. Months later, on the same beach where fate froze him in shock, Alexander watched Elena laugh freely for the first time in years, Sophia beside her, the sun setting behind them. For once, the ocean felt calm. Alexander Vale was still a billionaire. But for the first time in his life, he was rich in ways money could never buy. And the vacation meant to help him escape loneliness became the moment that finally brought him home.